Hey everyone, today we're going to focus on shooting shots from our character. So this is a very important part of our game, as it says in the description, run and gun. So we're going to be focusing on the gun aspect. What are we going to need to do today? Well, we're going to need to shoot our shots, we're going to need to control the fire rate of our shots, the speed of our shots, and also the direction in which our shots go. Because we don't want to just be shooting in one direction, just horizontally or just up and down. We want to be able to shoot in all directions. So I'm going to show you how you can also shoot diagonally. And so we'll just jump straight into this because this is just going to be nice, simple, short and sweet. So we'll go to the assets folder, and here I have some frames of animation, individual frames for my shot. And I'm going to select these. I left click, hold shift, and then I left click again, and I'm going to bring those into our hierarchy. I'm going to call this shot animation. Go to its according folder, and I'm going to save it in there. And so we have this animation here. Sample size will be 24. Hit Control C and Control V there. Zoom out and work by the tabs. So that goes there, that can go there, and that can go there. Great. And so we have our animation set up. To take a look at it, we can't actually see it right now just because that pesky main camera is actually blocking it. So to find it, you know, if we do have a panic on where this game object is, just hover in the scene view after having interacted with the scene view in some way, and then just hit F and you'll be able to take a look at your game objects, and it's depending on which one you've selected up here in the hierarchy. So that looks pretty good to me. Nothing too special, but pretty colorful, so I'm satisfied with that. The next thing we want to do to this game object is to add a component to it. So I'm going to go to add component, physics 2D and rigid body 2D. Then we're going to change that body type to kinematic and leave it at simulated. Freeze the rotation, we don't want any of that kind of movement. And then I'm going to create a prefab out of this game object. So I'm going to select this, drag it down to the assets folder, makes a little tesseract icon with the name of our game object. And so this is a prefab. So this means that we have pretty much essentially infinite copies of this game object, and these will be exact copies of this game object, so we don't have to do this over and over and over again. And this just helps us out just in case we want to do some other things, or maybe copy this as a template for another shot that we'll do later. So we want to apply a couple of things to this real quick. I'm just going to go to the animator and tick this so that when this object gets added to our game, it actually animates. Then I'm going to go to add component and scripts. We have a bullet script. Now you can see here our speed is set to 0. I've set that to 5 because I'm wanting to demo that. So it's a pretty slow speed, half the speed of our character here. And we're going to talk about what this script actually does. Go to the scripts folder, single click, just look at it in the inspector, and pretty much this script allows this object that's referenced by its rigid body 2D to travel up at a certain speed. And that's pretty much everything that this script does. So it's not going to control when this happens, it's just going to happen. And so I can demonstrate that, and I can demonstrate it using the prefab. So we'll just go into the play mode. Okay, once the play mode has started, I just go to the assets folder, go to my project view, and I just drag that in, and we can see our shots are traveling. So we've pretty much finished our shots. They seem to travel in the direction that we want, in the way that we want. Now, how are we going to control them? Because that's not the end result. We want to do a little bit more. We want to be able to control when they actually happen in the scene and the direction in which they travel and everything like this. So we'll go to our character right now, we'll select them, and then we'll right click, and then go to create empty. I'm going to create an empty game object, which is a child of this, and we're going to call it shot spawn. Now what shot spawn is it's going to be a public transform for where our shots will come out from. The reason why we've made it a child of this character is because if we want to move this around, we can. It's not as flexible if we just attach it to our character. And so it takes this position of our character into consideration. And you can see it's centered right on our character. If I do that, then we can see where shot spawn is. So then I'll select the character again, go to the inspector, down to add component, and we're going to add another script, and that script is player shots, and we see a bunch of public classes. So what's going on here? So as we take a look at player shots, we see it looks quite complicated, but don't worry, it's not really. So what this script allows us to do is set a fire rate, set a shot spawn, and set a game object, which is our shot. And so I'll just walk through these little lines down here because they're the most important for us. Actually, that's pretty much all the script is. And so it says if I input a certain key, and this is W, then we're going to shoot a shot from this position, shot spawn, at this angle. So I've put in something called a quaternion Euler, and that just controls the angle at which these things are instantiated. And that means it's going to shoot in a certain angle. So it won't be a static thing where we can only shoot up. For this first instance, it will only allow us to shoot up because the angle is 0. For the second one, which is assigned to D, it's going to shoot at -90, which is actually right. And so we assign our keys pertaining to the angle that we want. So down here I have a key called Q, and that fires up and left, which we can see down here as it says 45 degrees. So there's just a couple of things that we need to assign under this on the inspector for our character. So what is the shot going to be? Well, we go into our assets folder and we drag that shot. There we go. That's it. Where is it going to spawn from? Go into the hierarchy, click shot spawn, drag it over, and that's it. And our fire rate, I'm going to make that 0.25 and hit enter. So now we have everything assigned, and I can just play the game and expect to shoot. Okay, so we've got normal movement. Something happened to my character there, so I just had to hit the animator again. There we go. So we've got normal movement for our character, all that. And if I hit W, what happens? Well, I shoot up. Let's get on a platform here. Oh, I can't do it. Can't do it. Okay. If I hit D, shoot sideways, diagonal, down. All of these great directions. And so I'll show you how to add in the remaining angles which we haven't added in yet. And as you saw, my character didn't want to animate for some reason, and I don't know why that's been happening, but it's just been unchecking animator. So we're going to check animator again, and next time our character's in the scene, they're just going to animate straight from the get-go. So there won't be any issues there. Well, we're going to go into mono-develop now. So open up the player shot script and we'll just do a couple of edits on that. Alright, here we are in mono-develop, and we have our last line, and what we can do to add more is simply just select up to the last bracket there, Control C, go down, space or 2, Control V, assign a different key. So say I want to go for diagonal right in the up direction. So I'm going to assign the key E, and it's going to come down in that drop down there. And then I'll just put minus 45. Save that, and we can test it out. Okay, so if I hit E now, there we go. So now we have more directions. There we go. It looks pretty good. And then we can go back into MonoDevelop and add the rest of it, and I'll do that. I'll do a little cut. Okay, so here we have it. We have our character, and they can shoot in an array of directions. W, E, D, S. I could do X also for down, but I'll just stick with S, A, Q, C, and Z. And so it's just as simple as that. There's really not much more that we can do than that for this part. So today we just looked at shooting shots from our character in all different kinds of directions. In the future we can take a look at how we can animate it so that our character actually looks like they're shooting shot in those directions. And we can play around with a couple of things, colliders and things like that, destroying enemies. But we'll have to create some enemies first, so that'll be our next part. We'll be talking about enemies and a little bit about how they'll move around and things like that. Before I tune out though and close things up, just going to address something that's actually pretty important. So if you go over to this edit tab and then you go over to project settings and input, you can actually control the input for your project. And what you'll notice is when you press a WASD, pretty much, because we set this horizontal movement, it's going to want to also use, there's alternative negative buttons, and those were set as A and D. And so what you can do is you can go to this input manager, just delete those, and you'll be completely fine to actually just register shots instead from your A and D keys. So we won't have any problems with that. So that's it for today. Pretty simple, pretty short. Hope you enjoyed it and found something that you can take away from this project, maybe into another project that you're working on or whatever. If you like this, you know exactly what to do. If you've already been doing that support and everything like that, thank you so much. I should be back pretty soon with another part to this series. But anyway, while I'm working on that, hope you have a great time working on your own stuff. Take a look at the channel. There's probably some things that are pretty useful for you here, and we'll just be building and building and building on that. See you soon.